Hi, I'm Charlie, welcome back to Cine Channel, and today I will be reviewing The New Mutants. Now this movie came out in 2020 and is almost 5 years old. This is the last X-Men movie we will get until, I guess if you want to count Deadpool and Wolverine. But this is the last X-Men movie we've gotten, really. And apparently we're supposed to get one in 2028, hopefully. I'll be 20 by then, so that'll be cool. But anyway, this is the last X-Men movie, and it's only barely related to X-Men. Like, they only mention them twice in this movie. And although this isn't a horrible film, I think this just kind of solidified the end of the X-Men franchise for now, after Dark Phoenix, like I said in the last video. And although maybe it isn't as bad as I thought it would be, it's still at best mid. Anyway, The New Mutants is primarily about this new girl, Dani, and a hurricane hits her town and her father and her run away, but her father goes back to save some people, but he never comes back, and she's the sole survivor of this tornado. So with nowhere to go, she becomes a foster child and gets taken in by this lady who has a place with other kids that don't have parents, but they all have special abilities. They're all mutants, basically. And now Dani must kind of deal with her life and deal with these kids that she has to be friends with now, when she slowly starts to find out her power and her actual mutant abilities, making things very serious and affecting everybody in this little foster home. So like I said, it's not that bad, but all the characters, honestly, except the main one, are kind of forgettable. Like, Dani's interesting because she has a lot of trauma and you don't know what her power is, and that's kind of the whole movie, just figuring out what it is. And the fact that she was a sole survivor of that tornado, I do think that's interesting. But other than that, we have like a jock character, a girl that turns into a wolf, some mean girl character, some guy who's always getting hurt, and then the lady who runs it all is just the most stereotypical, like, just scientist lady. So yeah, it's not that interesting, really. The whole place kind of seems like it's supposed to look and feel like the X-Mansion, but it just doesn't do that. This whole movie just kind of has a gray tone to it. It doesn't really look the best. But I do appreciate the darker tone with her dealing with the loss of her dad. And there's these other characters that experience their biggest fears, and there's some dark moments. So I appreciate the tone and the darkness of it, just like the last one, Dark Phoenix. But that's really the only thing that has going for this movie. We find out Dani's power is to bring out people's biggest fears and secrets and insecurities and make them real and make that person live them. So that's when we get everybody's deepest, darkest fears, and we get some cool monsters. And that's another thing, that they actually try to like make this a little bit horror and monster-like, and I do like that and appreciate it. We don't really get a lot of that throughout the X-Men franchise, and there are definitely some mutants that deserve that treatment of a horror tale. So I like seeing that. That was cool. Okay, so two things I kind of like about this film. But we also don't really have a villain until the scientist lady turns out to be a doctor lady, and instead of her training these kids to become the next X-Men like it's previously said in the film, and it's even mentioned that her superiors are the X-Men and that the X-Men funded this project, it turns out she's making them killers, and she wants to get rid of Dani because her power's too big and it's bringing out her insecurities and darkest secrets. That, and she just sees what she's doing to the other kids. That's when she turns evil for a good second, when she just gets mauled by a bear. A big bear that Dani imagined, because that's what she's scared of. Whole metaphor with this fear and bear that her dad talked about. So we get a villain out of the doctor scientist lady for a second. And I don't know if it's supposed to be a metaphor, but the villain is Dani herself, her fear and her power that just creates fear. So I don't know if that's supposed to be a message, but that's really the villain. So there is no villain. This just suffers from a modern movie trying to be more edgy and dark while claiming they're related to X-Men while not really doing anything. Because this can very easily be looked at as like a C-level horror movie that got turned into an X-Men movie. Just because they didn't know if it was going to make that much money, so they just turned it into an X-Men movie so they could make it a part of a franchise. The New Mutants doesn't really have a plot either. Like I said, the plot is that this girl's dad dies, she gets put in a home, and she has to make friends with these other people, and they just happen to be mutants, and some spooky stuff happens, but it's all in the character's head, really. So I don't know, this movie is just kind of mid. No plot, no villain, forgettable characters, kind of a grayish, ugly tone. I give The New Mutants a 5. It's mid, like I said. It's mid. But that is all the X-Men movies reviewed, except the original 3. I will be doing a ranking next video of all of the X-Men movies, including the original trilogy. That's 11 films in total, and I'm not counting the Deadpool ones, because I want to be done with the X-Men franchise in June and do other types of content other than X-Men films. So yes, I'll just be ranking X-Men to The New Mutants. That'll be on the 28th. thank you for watching this video. I really hope there's a new X-Men movie in 2028 and that it's better than this. Have a Cine day.